In a bustling seaside town where the sun painted the waves golden and the air was thick with the scent of salt, a young girl named Luna roamed the docks. At just 12 years old, Luna was a small girl with wild, unkempt hair that danced in the ocean breeze. Her clothes were worn and tattered, remnants of a life that had never been easy, yet her bright green eyes sparkled with an uncanny wisdom, as if she had seen more of the world than her years suggested. The marina was a world of opulence, filled with gleaming yachts and luxurious boats, each more extravagant than the last. It was a stark contrast to Luna's life, where she scavenged for food and dodged the harsh realities of her upbringing. The townspeople often overlooked her, dismissing her as just another poor girl trying to make her way. But Luna was different. She had a sense for danger that most adults lacked. One sunny afternoon, as the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a warm glow over the marina, Luna noticed a magnificent yacht that had just anchored. The vessel was a floating palace adorned with sleek lines and dazzling white paint that gleamed in the sunlight. She watched from a distance as a well-dressed man stepped onto the dock, his demeanor exuding confidence and wealth. His name was Marcus Blackwood, a millionaire known for his successful ventures in the tech industry and his penchant for extravagant parties. Marcus was in his late 40s, with salt and pepper hair that framed a face marked by a life of privilege. He wore a tailored suit that seemed to shimmer in the sunlight, paired with polished shoes that mirrored the yacht's brilliance. Luna had seen him around before, the kind of man whose presence demanded attention and respect. Yet despite his wealth and status, he seemed oblivious to the hidden dangers lurking just beyond the horizon. As Marcus made his way toward his yacht, Luna felt an inexplicable urge to approach him. She had never spoken to a millionaire before, and the thought of warning him stirred something deep within her. With her heart racing, she rushed toward him, her feet pounding against the wooden planks of the dock. "Sir?" Luna called out, her voice cutting through the sound of waves lapping against the hull. Marcus paused, turning to face the small girl, his brow furrowing in confusion. "What is it, child?" he asked, his tone polite but slightly condescending. He looked down at her, his expression one of mild curiosity, as if he couldn't fathom what a girl like her could possibly have to say. Luna swallowed hard, gathering her thoughts. "You shouldn't go on your yacht," she blurted out, her eyes wide with urgency. "It's not safe." Marcus raised an eyebrow, amusement flickering across his face. "And why is that?" he inquired, crossing his arms as if prepared for a child's fanciful tale. Luna pointed towards the yacht, her finger trembling slightly. "There are 2 people on board," she said, her voice steady despite the panic rising in her chest. "You need to leave before it's too late." Marcus chuckled lightly, shaking his head. "What do you mean, Luna?" "It's just a boat party with a few friends. There's nothing to worry about." But Luna's expression turned serious. "No, really, they don't look friendly. You have to listen to me," she insisted, taking a step closer, her determination shining through. "Please, just turn around and look." Marcus hesitated, caught between the disbelief of an adult and the urgency in the girl's voice. Curiosity got the better of him, and he turned slowly to glance at the yacht. As his eyes landed on the deck, he felt a chill run down his spine. 2 figures loomed on the yacht, their silhouettes casting long shadows against the bright backdrop of the setting sun. One was tall and imposing, while the other was smaller, but both had an air of menace that sent a jolt of fear through Marcus. "What? Who are they?" Marcus muttered, his bravado slipping as he took a step back, instinctively placing distance between himself and the docked yacht. "They've been watching you," Luna said, her voice low and urgent. "I saw them earlier, and they don't seem like good people. You shouldn't trust them." Marcus's heart raced as he peered more closely at the figures on the yacht. The taller one seemed to be whispering something to the smaller one, their heads bent together as if plotting something sinister. Luna's warning echoed in his mind, and a feeling of dread washed over him. "Maybe you should come with me," Marcus said, his voice shaking slightly as he took another cautious step back. He looked down at Luna, realizing that she was no ordinary girl. There was a depth in her eyes that told him she understood the gravity of the situation far more than he did. "Please just go," Luna urged again, her eyes locked on the yacht, sensing the impending danger. "I can't let you get hurt." Marcus felt the weight of her words pressing against him. In that moment, he knew he had to make a choice, but fear and uncertainty clouded his mind. Would he dismiss the warning of a child, or would he heed the instinct that was telling him to flee? "Luna," he started, but before he could finish, a loud voice erupted from the yacht, calling out to him with a chilling familiarity. "Marcus, come aboard!" The invitation rang out across the dock, and the figures turned towards him, their expressions now visible. Marcus felt his stomach twist at the sound of his name echoing from the yacht. The voice was smooth yet ominous, dripping with a familiarity that sent shivers down his spine. He had heard that voice before, but in a context that made it all the more unsettling. As he glanced back toward Luna, he saw the urgent panic in her eyes and the resolve etched across her small face. "Don't go, please," Luna pleaded, taking another step forward as if to physically block him from moving toward the yacht. "You don't know what they want." But curiosity and confusion tugged at Marcus. He felt an inexplicable pull toward the yacht, as if the figures on board were magnets drawing him in against his better judgment. He turned to look again at the two people, their faces now clearer as they leaned over the railing. The taller one had dark hair slicked back, wearing sunglasses that reflected the sunlight. The other, shorter figure had wild, tangled hair and an unsettling grin that made Marcus's skin crawl. "Luna, Marcus began, his voice faltering as doubt crept in. He had been a man of reason, a businessman who relied on facts and logic. Yet here he was, a millionaire caught in a moment of confusion and fear, confronted by a child who seemed to know more than he did about the threat looming over him. "They're bad news," Luna insisted, her voice rising above the sound of the waves crashing against the dock. "I've seen them before. They're not here to party. They're after something else. You have to trust me." Marcus's mind raced. Who were these people? Why would they be after him? As he stood there, caught in a standoff between a little girl's warnings and the allure of his luxurious yacht, he felt time slipping away. The dark-haired figure shouted again, waving his arms as if to draw Marcus closer, the smile on his face unnervingly wide. "Come on, Marcus. We've been waiting for you. Don't be shy." The word sent a chill through Marcus. He had indeed been waiting for someone, but not for these individuals. A recent business venture had brought him into contact with people in questionable circles, but he had thought he was rid of them. The yacht was supposed to be his escape, a weekend away from the stress of deals and negotiations, but now, with the shadows of uncertainty creeping in, it felt more like a trap. "Luna." Marcus's voice trailed off as he glanced at her, searching her face for any hint of reassurance. She met his gaze with unwavering intensity, and he saw something in her eyes, something that resonated with the primal instinct to survive. "They're going to try to lure you in, just like they did with others," Luna warned, her voice steady despite the fear radiating from her. "I can help you. Just listen to me." Marcus hesitated, caught between the weight of his instincts and the pull of the luxurious lifestyle he had cultivated over the years. He glanced back at the yacht, the figures now leaning over the side, their grins widening as if they sensed his indecision. "What do you mean, others?" Marcus asked, trying to keep his voice calm as he took a cautious step back, forcing himself to think rationally. "What happened to them?" Luna took a deep breath, her eyes flickering to the water as if recalling painful memories. "People who went on that yacht. They disappeared," she said quietly, her voice trembling slightly. "No one ever saw them again. I've heard the stories. They were never found." A knot tightened in Marcus's stomach. He had heard rumors of rich individuals vanishing under mysterious circumstances, but he had always dismissed them as urban legends. Yet now, faced with the palpable tension in Luna's voice and the sinister figures on the yacht, he felt a chill grip his heart. "Are you sure?" he asked, the question lingering in the air, half hopeful that it might somehow alleviate the dread enveloping him. Luna nodded firmly. I've seen it happen. That's why I'm here. You need to leave now. The urgency in her voice broke through his hesitation, and Marcus took a step back from the edge of the dock. He could feel the tug of the yacht, its allure dimming in the face of the danger that now felt all too real. The tall figure on the yacht shouted again, the impatience evident in his voice. "Come on, Marcus. You know you want to join us. It'll be fun." Marcus could see the impatience morphing into something darker in the man's eyes. "I don't think so," Marcus finally said, more to himself than to anyone else. "I think I'll pass." Luna beamed with relief, a flicker of hope lighting up her features. "Good choice," she whispered, glancing back at the yacht. "We should get out of here before they come over." But just as they turned to leave, the wild-haired figure on the yacht leaned over, a sharp laugh slicing through the air. "You're making a big mistake, Marcus. You'll regret this." Marcus felt his heart race at the threat, and he turned to Luna, his pulse quickening as he processed the intensity of the situation. "We have to move," he urged, grabbing her hand and pulling her away from the dock. As Marcus and Luna hurried down the wooden planks, he glanced back one last time at the yacht. The two figures were no longer smiling. Their expressions had morphed into something sinister, their eyes narrowed, and their laughter echoed with a chilling finality. Luna, despite her small stature, kept pace with the millionaire, her heart racing as adrenaline surged through her veins. She felt the urgency of the moment, aware that danger was not just behind them, but potentially closing in fast. "What do we do now?" Marcus asked, glancing over his shoulder to ensure the figures hadn't followed. The sun had dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows that twisted and turned around them. The warmth of the day was quickly fading, replaced by a chilling breeze that whispered of the encroaching night. Luna looked up at him, her bright green eyes reflecting a mix of determination and fear. "We need to get somewhere safe," she replied, her voice steady despite the panic still swirling within her. "Those people, whatever they're after, they're not going to give up easily." Marcus nodded, understanding the gravity of her words. He had spent his life surrounded by wealth and security, but in that moment he felt vulnerable. The threats that existed in the world of high finance paled in comparison to the very real danger he now faced. A child, a girl who had lived on the margins of society, was the one guiding him away from peril. They sprinted through the winding streets of the marina, passing rows of closed shops and dimly lit restaurants. Marcus led the way, a sense of urgency propelling him forward while Luna followed closely, her heart racing in sync with their hurried footsteps. The vibrant sounds of the marina faded into the background, replaced by the sound of their breathing and the echo of their footsteps against the pavement. "Where can we go?" Marcus asked, searching his mind for a place where they could find safety. He had spent countless weekends at the marina, but the carefree days of luxury and leisure felt distant now. "Is there somewhere we can hide?" "There's an old boathouse nearby," Luna suggested, her voice low and urgent. "It's not far. I've gone there before when I needed to escape. No one goes there anymore." "Lead the way," Marcus said, trusting the girl's instincts as he followed closely behind her. Luna darted through the narrow alleys, her small frame effortlessly weaving between parked cars and bicycles, while Marcus struggled to keep up. He felt a sense of responsibility for her safety, a bond forming between them as they navigated the twilight. As they neared the boathouse, Luna pointed toward a dilapidated structure nestled between two larger buildings. It looked abandoned, its wooden frame weathered and worn, but it held the promise of refuge. "There!" she exclaimed, quickening her pace as they approached the entrance. Marcus pushed open the creaking door, and they slipped inside, the air thick with the scent of old wood and salt. The interior was dark, illuminated only by the faint light seeping through the cracks in the walls. Dust motes danced in the dimness as Luna led him deeper into the space, her keen eyes searching for any signs of safety. "Stay quiet," she whispered, glancing back at Marcus. "We can't let them know where we are." Marcus nodded, his heart pounding as he leaned against the wall, trying to catch his breath. The adrenaline coursing through him made every noise seem amplified. The creaking of the wood, the distant sound of waves crashing against the shore, and the quiet rustle of Luna shifting beside him. After a moment, Luna found a corner where they could sit and catch their breath. "Do you think they'll find us?" Marcus asked, his voice barely above a whisper, a sense of dread settling over him. "I don't know," Luna replied, her brow furrowing in thought. "But we have to be ready. If they come looking for us, we need a plan." Marcus looked around the boathouse, taking in the surroundings. It was cluttered with forgotten equipment and remnants of boats that had seen better days. Fishing nets hung from the walls, and old life jackets lay strewn across the floor. "Do you think they're still at the yacht?" he asked, trying to piece together the situation. Luna shook her head, her eyes narrowed in concentration. "They'll probably check around here. We can't let them see us." Marcus took a deep breath, the fear settling into a determined resolve. "We can't stay here forever. We need to figure out who they are and what they want." Luna nodded, the seriousness of their predicament washing over her. "I've heard rumors about people like them. They're not just bad, they're dangerous. They get involved in things that can hurt people." Her voice trembled slightly, revealing the fear she tried to hide. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine at her words. "What do you mean, hurt people?" "They get involved in smuggling and other illegal things," Luna explained, her eyes wide with the gravity of the situation. "I overheard them talking once. They lure in wealthy people like you, but it's not for parties or fun. It's worse." Marcus felt his heart race as he processed her words. The allure of wealth and luxury was overshadowed by the grim reality of what Luna was describing. He had heard stories of the dark underbelly of the affluent world, but he had never thought he would find himself in such a scenario. "We need to think of a way to expose them," he said, determination igniting within him. "If we can gather evidence, we can bring them to justice." Luna's eyes widened at the thought. "But how?" "We're just two people. They won't listen to us." "Maybe not, but we have something they don't. Knowledge of their plans," Marcus replied, a spark of hope igniting in his chest. "If we can get to my phone and call for help." Suddenly a loud noise echoed from outside, shattering the stillness of the boathouse. It sounded like footsteps, heavy and purposeful, approaching the entrance. Marcus's heart dropped as he exchanged a worried glance with Luna. "They're here," he whispered, panic flaring in his chest. Marcus and Luna exchanged anxious glances as the heavy footsteps grew closer, echoing ominously through the walls of the boathouse. Marcus felt his heart thundering in his chest, each beat amplifying the urgency of their situation. Luna, who had been so brave, now looked small and vulnerable beside him, her eyes wide with fear. "What do we do?" Luna whispered, her voice trembling as she pressed her back against the wall, trying to blend into the shadows. "They can't find us here." "Just stay quiet and still," Marcus urged, his mind racing to formulate a plan. He crouched low beside her, glancing around the boathouse for anything that could serve as a weapon or a distraction. The dim light illuminated scattered fishing gear and discarded equipment, but nothing that felt substantial enough to defend themselves against whatever danger awaited. The footsteps halted just outside the door, and Marcus could hear muffled voices exchanging hushed words. His heart sank as he recognized the deep, familiar tone of the man who had called out to him from the yacht. The realization that they had followed him heightened his anxiety, and he fought against the urge to bolt out of the boathouse. "Do you think he's in there?" a voice asked, laced with impatience. Marcus couldn't see them, but he could picture the dark-haired figure, his sunglasses reflecting the fading light, likely scanning the area for any sign of him. "He's got to be," another voice replied, sharp and urgent. "Check the back. He can't have gone far. We can't let him escape again." Marcus clenched his fists, a sense of dread settling over him. They were hunting him, and they were not going to stop until they found him. Luna's hand tightened around his, a small gesture of solidarity that reminded him they were in this together. Despite the fear coursing through his veins, he knew he had to remain calm, for both their sakes. "Luna," he whispered urgently, "we need to find a way out of here before they get inside." Luna nodded, her expression resolute. "There's a window at the back. It might be too high for me, but if you can lift me up..." No, it's too risky, Marcus interrupted, shaking his head. If they catch us trying to escape, we won't get another chance. Just then, the door creaked open, casting a sliver of light into the dim room. Marcus's breath caught in his throat as two silhouettes stepped into the boathouse, blocking the entrance. The tall man in the sunglasses and his shorter accomplice entered, their presence suffocating as they scanned the interior with predatory precision. "There's no one here," the shorter man said, a hint of frustration in his voice. "We wasted our time." The tall man shook his head, his expression unreadable behind the dark lenses. "They'll be around here somewhere. We know they're hiding." Marcus held his breath, his heart racing as he and Luna pressed deeper into the shadows, hoping they wouldn't be discovered. The intruders began to search the boathouse, their footsteps echoing as they rummaged through the scattered fishing gear, looking for any sign of their quarry. "What if we leave? Maybe they'll give up," Luna suggested, her voice barely above a whisper, fear coloring her tone. Marcus considered it, but he shook his head again. "We can't leave. If we run out there, they'll see us. We need to think this through." The tall man moved closer to their hiding spot, his voice low and menacing as he spoke to his companion. "He's smart. He knows we're not just here to play. He's probably got something we want, and we need to find it before someone else does." "What do you mean?" the shorter man asked, his curiosity evident. What could he possibly have? "Information," the tall man replied, a smirk forming on his lips. "We've got eyes everywhere. If he gets out, we'll lose everything we've worked for." Marcus felt a cold sweat break out on his brow. Information? What did they want from him? He thought of the business deals he had been involved in, the corporate secrets he held, but what could a girl like Luna and himself possibly have that was worth pursuing? "Let's split up," the shorter man suggested, a sense of determination in his voice. "I'll check over here. You take the back. He can't hide forever." "No," Marcus whispered urgently to Luna, who looked up at him with wide, frightened eyes. "We need to stay quiet." As the two men moved deeper into the boathouse, Marcus took a deep breath and formulated a plan. He scanned the cluttered area, searching for anything that could aid their escape. His gaze landed on a set of oars propped against the wall, the wood weathered but sturdy. It might not serve as a weapon, but it could provide them with a means to distract the men. "Luna, if I distract them, you run for the window," he whispered quickly. "Do you understand?" Luna nodded, determination washing over her features despite the fear that lingered in her eyes. "Be careful, Marcus," she said softly. With a final glance at the men who were now rummaging through the room, Marcus slowly reached for the oar, careful not to make a sound. He gripped it tightly, preparing for the moment he would need to act. As the men continued their search, Marcus took a deep breath, steeling himself for the challenge ahead. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the back of the boathouse as the shorter man knocked over a stack of old crates, cursing under his breath. Seizing the moment, Marcus quickly lifted the oar and swung it against the wall, creating a loud noise that reverberated through the small space. "Hey, over here!" he shouted, his voice ringing with desperation as he stepped into view, hoping to draw their attention away from Luna. The men turned, surprise flashing across their faces. "There he is!" the tall man shouted, lunging toward Marcus. But it was too late. Luna was already on the move. "Go!" Marcus yelled, his heart racing as he drew the men's attention. Luna dashed toward the window, her small frame moving with surprising speed. Marcus had only a moment to hope she would make it before he turned to face the advancing men. Adrenaline coursing through his veins, he braced himself, gripping the oar tightly, ready to defend himself as they closed in. Marcus's heart pounded as the tall man approached him, a twisted grin creeping across his face. "You think you can get away from us, kid?" he sneered, his tone dripping with menace. Marcus could see the shorter man glancing back toward the window, their focus split as they processed the chaotic scene unfolding in the boathouse. "Luna!" Marcus shouted, his voice sharp with urgency. "Don't look back, keep going!" He could see her small figure nearing the window, her fingers reaching for the edge. The tall man paused momentarily, distracted by Marcus's call, allowing Luna just enough time to make her escape. With a swift motion, Marcus swung the oar toward the tall man, but he sidestepped quickly, his reflexes sharper than Marcus anticipated. The oar swung harmlessly through the air as the man laughed, the sound echoing mockingly around the boathouse. "You really think you can stop us with a stick?" he taunted. "Get away from her!" Marcus shouted, the fear transforming into fierce protectiveness. He planted his feet firmly, preparing to defend not just himself but the only friend he had. Luna's desperate voice rang out as she reached the window. "Marcus, I'm out!" she exclaimed, her eyes shining with hope. "You can do it. Just get away." But Marcus was not ready to abandon her. The adrenaline surged through him as he faced the men, desperate to protect Luna. "What do you want?" Marcus demanded, trying to sound braver than he felt. "Why are you after us?" The shorter man stepped forward, his expression serious. "We're looking for something, kid. Something that belongs to us." His gaze flickered toward the tall man, who was still watching Marcus with amusement, almost enjoying the chase. "What do you mean, something that belongs to you?" Marcus asked, trying to buy time, his mind racing to piece together their motives. The tall man chuckled darkly. "You think you're in control here? You're just a child playing at being a hero. You know nothing of the world we live in." His tone was condescending, as if he believed Marcus was nothing but a pawn in a larger game. Marcus clenched his fists tighter around the oar, his resolve hardening. "I might be just a kid, but I'm not afraid of you," he declared, even as doubt crept into his mind. He wasn't just fighting for himself, he was fighting for Luna, too. "Is that so?" the tall man retorted, stepping closer, the confidence in his stride unsettling. "Let's see how brave you are when we—" Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the boathouse, startling everyone. Marcus's heart leapt as he turned to see Luna had knocked over a pile of crates while trying to escape. The noise rang out, creating a momentary distraction. It was the opening Marcus needed. "Run, Luna! Get help!" he shouted, seizing the moment. Marcus quickly swung the oar at the tall man again, catching him off guard and knocking him slightly off balance. The tall man stumbled back, but he quickly regained his footing, his expression shifting from amusement to rage. "Kid, you just made a big mistake," the tall man growled, anger flashing in his eyes. But Marcus didn't wait for him to retaliate. He darted toward the other side of the boathouse, searching for another escape route. His mind raced as he scanned the area. There had to be another way out. He spotted a door at the back of the room, half hidden behind a stack of fishing nets. It was a long shot, but it was better than facing the men head-on. "Luna!" Marcus called out, his voice filled with determination. "I'm right behind you!" Luna's voice rang out from outside, filled with concern. "Marcus, hurry!" Without looking back, Marcus sprinted toward the door, adrenaline propelling him forward. He flung it open, spilling out into the dim light of the evening. The fresh air hit him, a stark contrast to the suffocating atmosphere of the boathouse. "Over here, Marcus," Luna shouted, pointing toward a narrow path leading away from the dock. "We can hide in the trees." Marcus nodded, and without wasting another moment, he sprinted toward her. They dashed down the path, the sound of their footsteps muffled by the thick underbrush. Behind them, they could hear the men shouting, their voices growing more frantic as they pursued. "Stop!" the tall man yelled, his tone sharp and commanding. "You can't run forever." Marcus glanced back, fear knotting in his stomach, but they were faster than he had anticipated. Their determination fueled their chase. "Keep going," he urged Luna, who was running with all her might beside him. They plunged into the trees, the branches snagging at their clothes as they ducked and weaved through the dense foliage. The sounds of the men faded slightly, but Marcus knew they wouldn't give up easily. "Luna, we have to find somewhere to hide," Marcus panted, glancing around as he pulled her deeper into the thicket. "There's no way they'll give up without a fight." "There," Luna pointed to a hollow beneath a large tree, the thick roots forming a small, cave-like shelter. "We can hide there." Marcus nodded, urgency driving them forward. They squeezed into the hollow, hearts racing as they huddled together in the dark, breathless and scared. The darkness enveloped them as Marcus and Luna nestled in the hollow of the tree, offering a strange sense of protection amidst their rising fear. Outside, the shouts of the two men still echoed through the trees, though they hadn't come any closer. The adrenaline that had fueled their escape left Marcus feeling exhausted yet vigilant, each sound making him flinch. Luna's hand squeezed his reassuringly, her wide eyes reflecting both fear and trust. "Do you think they'll find us?" she whispered, her voice barely above a murmur. Marcus hesitated, his heart pounding. "I don't know," he admitted, straining to hear any movement outside. "We have to be quiet. They might just give up and go away." Minutes felt like hours as they waited, holding their breath with each crack of a twig or rustle of leaves. Luna's small body shook slightly beside him, and Marcus instinctively wrapped an arm around her shoulders, trying to provide some comfort. "You're brave, Luna," he whispered softly, hoping to bolster her spirits. "We'll be okay." Luna's voice trembled slightly as she admitted, "I'm scared, Marcus." "What if they find us?" "They won't," Marcus replied, forcing confidence into his words. "We're faster than they are, and we know this place better. We'll wait here until it's safe." Just then, a loud crash resonated from the direction of the boathouse, followed by a frustrated shout. "They've got to be here somewhere! Split up!" The taller man's voice boomed through the trees, sending a shiver down Marcus's spine. Marcus could feel the weight of their situation pressing heavily upon him. He squeezed Luna's hand tighter, his thoughts racing. He knew they had to act, but the risk of being caught was immense. "We have to be smart about this," he whispered. "If they split up, maybe we can sneak away when the coast is clear." Luna nodded, her eyes wide with understanding, and they listened intently, waiting for any signs of movement. Time seemed to stretch endlessly, each second heavy with uncertainty. Then moments later, they heard footsteps, heavy and deliberate, approaching from the direction of the boathouse. "Check behind those bushes," the shorter man ordered, his voice gruff and commanding. "They can't have gone far." Marcus's heart raced as he felt Luna's grip tighten. "Stay quiet," he instructed, trying to mask the fear that threatened to overwhelm him. They held their breath, the sound of their rapid heartbeats drowning out the world around them. The footsteps drew closer, and the men's voices sounded nearer, more urgent. "They could be hiding anywhere. We can't let them slip away," the tall man growled, the menace in his tone making Marcus's skin crawl. He could hear the rustling of leaves as they searched, their shadows creeping closer to their hiding place. "Luna," he whispered urgently, "if they find us, we have to run." Luna nodded, fear etched on her small face, but Marcus could see a spark of determination in her eyes. Just then, the taller man's voice boomed above them. "They've got to be here! Look closely!" The two men moved toward the tree, their heavy footsteps crunching the ground beneath them. Luna's breath hitched in her throat as they peered into the shadows. "Now!" Marcus hissed, and they bolted from their hiding spot, bursting out into the open air. The world seemed to explode around them as the men shouted in surprise. "Stop them!" the tall man bellowed, and the chase began anew. Marcus and Luna sprinted through the trees, weaving between the trunks, their hearts racing with every step. The men's angry shouts echoed behind them, urging them onward. "There!" Luna shouted, pointing to a small clearing ahead. Marcus nodded, determination flooding through him as they pushed toward it. They could see the edge of the property, where the trees thinned and a path led to the main road. "Keep going," he urged, his breath coming in gasps. They burst into the clearing, sunlight streaming down as they raced toward the path. The sight of freedom fueled their resolve, though they could hear the men crashing through the underbrush behind them. As they reached the edge of the clearing, Luna stumbled slightly, but Marcus caught her, pulling her back to her feet. "We're almost there," he shouted, urging her onward. Together they ran toward the main road, but suddenly the two men emerged from the forest behind them, furious and relentless. "You can't escape," the tall man shouted, his voice a mix of anger and disbelief. "You'll regret this." Marcus felt a rush of fear but pushed it aside. "Run!" he yelled to Luna, who was already moving forward. They dashed down the path, racing toward the road, their legs pumping furiously. Just as they reached the edge of the road, Marcus spotted a car approaching in the distance. "Luna, wave your arms!" he shouted, desperation seeping into his voice. "We need to get their attention!" Luna began waving her arms frantically, jumping up and down as the car drew closer. Marcus glanced back, seeing the men gaining on them, their faces twisted with rage, but he focused on the approaching vehicle, hope igniting within him. The car slowed as it neared them, and a woman inside rolled down her window, her eyes widening in surprise. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. "Help! We're being chased!" Marcus cried, desperation spilling from his lips. "Please!" The driver hesitated for a moment, glancing back at the two men who were now just a few feet away. "Get in!" she urged, her voice firm. Without a second thought, Marcus and Luna dove into the back seat, slamming the door shut just as the tall man reached for them. The driver hit the gas, and they sped away, leaving the men standing on the roadside, shouts of frustration fading behind them. Marcus could hardly believe it. They were safe. "Are you two okay?" the woman asked, glancing back at them in the rearview mirror. "What happened?" Marcus took a deep breath, trying to steady his racing heart. "We just escaped some bad men," he replied, his voice trembling slightly. "Thank you for helping us." Luna nodded vigorously, relief flooding her features. "You saved us!" she exclaimed, her eyes shining with gratitude. The woman smiled, concern still etched on her face. "Let's get you somewhere safe." As they drove away from the scene, Marcus felt a sense of triumph. They had faced danger and come out stronger, together. In that moment, Marcus realized that bravery wasn't just about facing fear. It was about protecting those you cared for and finding strength in one another. As the trees blurred past and the sun set on the horizon, Marcus knew they would always have each other's backs, no matter what challenges lay ahead. The woman continued to drive, taking a winding path away from the marina and back toward the heart of the seaside town. As the lights of the town came into view, Marcus felt himself finally beginning to relax. He glanced at Luna, who seemed equally relieved, but her sharp eyes were still scanning the road behind them. "Thank you so much," Marcus said to the driver, his voice thick with gratitude. "We didn't know where to turn." The woman nodded, her face softening. "It's no trouble. I'm glad I came along when I did." She shot him a quick, curious look in the rearview mirror. "Those men, who are they? Why were they after you two?" Marcus hesitated. How could he explain it? Even he wasn't fully sure what had driven the men to chase them so ruthlessly. He looked at Luna, hoping she might have a better answer. "They're dangerous," Luna spoke up, her voice steady but haunted. "They've hurt people before, and they wanted something from Marcus." The woman's eyes widened. "My goodness. Do you know what they wanted?" Marcus shook his head, piecing together fragments of their encounter. "I think it's connected to something I'm involved in. They kept talking about information, something they said I had, but I don't understand why they'd go to such extremes." The woman fell silent, her face serious as she processed their words. "Well, whatever they were after, I'm glad I found you too. You're safe now." They pulled into the town square, where lampposts cast warm, reassuring pools of light across the cobbled streets. Luna seemed to exhale a sigh of relief, and Marcus could feel the tension slipping from his own shoulders. "Where can I take you?" the woman asked. "I want to make sure you're both safe for the night." Luna glanced at Marcus, her expression uncertain. "I don't have anywhere to go," she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "I usually just find a place." Marcus felt a pang of guilt. In all the chaos, he hadn't stopped to think about where Luna might sleep each night. She had been navigating this dangerous life on her own, without anyone to turn to. "Then you're coming with me," Marcus said, his tone resolute. "I have a place nearby, and there's more than enough room." Luna's eyes widened, and she looked as if she wanted to refuse, but the exhaustion and relief were clear in her face. Are you sure? Marcus nodded, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. I owe you my life. I don't know what would have happened back there if you hadn't warned me. Please, let me help. The woman nodded approvingly, giving them both a soft smile. Well, that sounds like a plan. She turned the car toward Marcus's house, a modest but secure place just on the outskirts of town. They arrived a few minutes later, and as the car rolled to a stop, Luna looked out at the cozy house, clearly awed. For a child who had been alone for so long, the warm glow from the windows seemed almost magical. Marcus felt a sense of satisfaction as he helped her out of the car. Thank you again, Marcus said to the woman as she prepared to leave. We couldn't have made it without you. She gave a quick nod, a warm smile lighting her face. Take care of each other. Then, with a final wave, she drove off into the night. Marcus led Luna inside, where the scent of wood and the soft lighting made the space feel even more welcoming. He guided her to a guest room where fresh sheets and blankets were already laid out. You can stay here, he said, watching her face light up as she took in the room. Luna turned to him, her eyes bright with gratitude. Thank you, Marcus, she whispered. I don't remember the last time I felt this safe. Marcus knelt down to her level, a gentle smile on his face. Get some rest. Tomorrow we'll figure out how to deal with all of this. He gestured vaguely, his mind still processing the events of the day. For now, let's just be glad we're safe. Luna nodded, the exhaustion finally catching up to her. She lay down, pulling the blankets over herself, and within moments, she was asleep, a look of peace softening her features. Marcus watched her for a moment, feeling an unexpected sense of responsibility. He had always been a man of wealth and influence, accustomed to solving problems with resources. But tonight, he had found strength in a little girl's courage and resilience. Quietly, he turned off the light and closed the door, leaving her to sleep. In the solitude of his own room, Marcus lay awake, his thoughts racing. Who were those men, and why were they so desperate to catch him? He thought back to their words, the threats, the references to information. They had alluded to secrets he might be keeping, but he couldn't recall anything in his dealings that would warrant such danger. Eventually, exhaustion claimed him, and he drifted into a restless sleep. The next morning, Marcus woke to the sound of laughter. He got up, feeling the lingering weight of the previous night's events. But as he entered the kitchen, he saw Luna sitting at the table, smiling as she ate a plate of scrambled eggs. Good morning, she said, her face bright. Marcus managed a tired smile. Good morning, Luna. Sleep well? She nodded, her expression softening. Better than I have in a long time. They shared breakfast, but as the sun rose higher in the sky, the reality of the danger they still faced settled over them again. Luna looked at him, the light-heartedness fading as her expression turned serious. What are we going to do about those men, Marcus? I don't think they're going to give up. Marcus sighed, leaning back in his chair. I don't know yet, but I think it's time we get some answers. They decided to go into town and speak to a trusted friend of Marcus's, a man named Jacob who had worked in private security and knew how to dig up information. If anyone could help them understand the motives of those men, it was Jacob. By midday, they arrived at Jacob's office, tucked in a small building near the edge of town. Jacob, a tall man with a kind but intense demeanor, greeted them with a look of concern. Marcus, Luna, he said, ushering them inside. I heard a bit about what happened. You're lucky to be safe. Thanks, Jacob, Marcus replied, his expression solemn. We need your help. There were 2 men at the marina last night, dangerous men who were after us. They kept saying I had something, information they wanted, but I can't figure out what they meant. Jacob leaned forward, his brows knitting in thought. Did they give you any other clues? Marcus shook his head. No, just that they couldn't afford to let me go. They talked about my knowing something, but I can't think of what it might be. Jacob's face grew serious. Marcus, these men, Did they look like they were involved in organized crime? Luna spoke up. They did, and they were dangerous. Like they weren't just after him for money. Jacob nodded, his expression grave. It sounds like they might be connected to something bigger. Marcus, think back on any recent business deals, partnerships, or even events. Is there anything that might connect you to something shady? Marcus thought for a moment. There was one recent partnership, a seemingly straightforward investment venture. He remembered a few strange details about the people he'd dealt with, odd requests to keep things quiet, to avoid drawing too much attention, but he'd never questioned it. Actually, yes, he admitted, his voice tinged with regret. There was a recent deal. It was all above board, or so I thought. But some of the people involved, they wanted everything kept low profile. Jacob's expression darkened. Marcus, this sounds like more than just a risky business deal. It's possible you got involved with people connected to illegal operations, and they may see you as a threat now. Marcus's face paled as the weight of the revelation hit him. What should I do, Jacob? First, I'll look into these men, see what connections they might have, and if there's a way to legally protect you both. In the meantime, stay low. Avoid drawing attention, and if you see them, do not engage. Let me handle this part. Marcus nodded, the reality of their situation settling over him with a heavy finality. Thank you, Jacob. For everything. Jacob gave them a reassuring nod. You're not alone in this. I'll reach out when I have more information. As Marcus and Luna left Jacob's office, a renewed sense of purpose filled Marcus. He knew they couldn't erase the danger entirely, but at least now they had someone they could trust on their side. Luna slipped her hand into Marcus's, her grip steady. We're going to get through this, aren't we? Marcus looked down at her, feeling the strength in her small but determined hand. Yes, Luna. Together we'll make it. And with that, they stepped into the bright light of day, ready to face whatever came next. Over the next few days, Marcus and Luna stayed close to his house, avoiding unnecessary trips to town and keeping a low profile. Jacob had promised to keep them updated, but each hour of silence weighed on them both, as if they were living in a fragile peace that could shatter at any moment. Marcus spent the time making sure Luna felt comfortable. He showed her the small garden behind the house, where wildflowers grew in a burst of color, and took her on short walks around the quiet paths nearby. He marveled at her curiosity and resilience, even though he could see the worry that sometimes crossed her face when she thought he wasn't looking. Then, one late afternoon, Jacob called with an urgent tone in his voice. Marcus, I found something. You and Luna need to come to my office right away. Marcus's heart skipped a beat. We'll be there as soon as we can. He turned to Luna, who had been quietly reading a book on the couch. Jacob has news. Are you ready? Luna nodded, her eyes steady but filled with an intensity that belied her age. Let's go. They left the house, keeping an eye out for any sign of trouble, but the drive to Jacob's office was uneventful. When they arrived, Jacob met them at the door and ushered them inside, locking it behind them with a careful glance outside. Thank you for coming, Jacob said, gesturing for them to sit. His face was somber, a stark contrast to the comforting presence he had offered them before. I found some information on the men who were after you. Marcus leaned forward, feeling a knot of apprehension tighten in his stomach. What did you find? Jacob pulled out a folder and opened it, revealing several photos and documents. He pointed to an image of the tall man in the sunglasses and his shorter accomplice. These two are known associates of a larger organization involved in money laundering, illegal trade, and other serious crimes. Marcus exchanged a nervous glance with Luna, who seemed equally tense. Jacob continued, his voice grave. This organization targets wealthy individuals with influence or valuable information that they can exploit. They use threats and intimidation to get what they want and cover their tracks with extreme measures. Marcus, I believe they see you as a loose end, someone who might know too much or become a liability. But I barely know anything, Marcus protested, his frustration rising. "I was just part of an investment deal. I didn't realize—" Jacob held up a hand, stopping him. "They don't care how much you know. If there's even a chance you could expose them, that's enough for them to take action." Luna's voice was quiet but filled with a fierce resolve. "Then what can we do?" Jacob took a deep breath. "There's only one way to put an end to this. We need evidence, proof of their criminal activities and their connection to you. If we can gather enough information to expose them, we might be able to force them to back off. But it's risky, and it's going to require careful planning." Marcus nodded, determination settling in his chest. "Whatever it takes. I won't let them ruin our lives." Jacob looked at them both, a hint of admiration in his eyes. "All right then. Here's the plan." Over the next few days, Jacob laid out a strategy. They would need to retrieve documents from Marcus's previous business contacts, trace connections, and find hidden records that could link these men back to their organization. Jacob taught Marcus and Luna how to stay discreet, what signals to look out for if they were being followed, and how to communicate securely. The three of them worked late into the night, often poring over files and notes by lamplight. Luna proved herself a quick learner, quietly absorbing everything Jacob taught them. She was resourceful and sharp, surprising both men with her insights and observations. Finally, Jacob found a lead, a secure location where the organization allegedly stored documents. It was a private club in the city, a place where only certain individuals could access the inner rooms. Getting inside wouldn't be easy, but if Marcus could retrieve even a small amount of the organization's files, they'd have the proof they needed. On the night of the plan, Marcus and Luna dressed in simple dark clothing, ready to blend in with the club's crowd. Jacob had arranged for Marcus to enter under a false identity, and he'd even set up a small earpiece so he could communicate with Jacob from inside. Luna would stay with Jacob in the car, providing any support Marcus needed from outside. "Luna, stay close to Jacob," Marcus said as he prepared to leave the car, his voice filled with the protective tone he'd developed toward her. "I'll be back as soon as I can," she nodded, her face serious. "Be careful, Marcus." He gave her a reassuring smile, but as he walked toward the entrance of the club, his heart pounded with anticipation and fear. He entered smoothly, glancing around to familiarize himself with the space, then made his way through the crowd to the back of the club, where the more restricted areas were located. "All right, Marcus," Jacob's voice came through his earpiece, steady and calm. "The files should be in a storage room at the end of the hall on your left. Be quick and don't attract attention." Marcus nodded subtly, keeping his expression neutral as he navigated the corridor. His heart raced, but he moved with a confidence he hoped would make him blend in. He reached the end of the hall, spotting a door labeled "Private." Taking a deep breath, he pressed his ear to the door, listening for any sign of movement inside. Hearing nothing, he slipped in quietly. Inside, the room was dimly lit, filled with filing cabinets and a few laptops scattered across a desk. He made his way to one of the cabinets and began rifling through folders, looking for anything that could link the organization to their activities. "Marcus, we're still clear out here," Jacob's voice came through. "Keep going." Marcus pulled out a folder filled with names, numbers, and dates, each one seeming more suspicious than the last. He tucked it into his jacket, then continued searching, feeling the seconds slipping away. Just as he reached for another file, he heard footsteps in the hallway outside. His heart skipped a beat as he quickly closed the cabinet and ducked behind a stack of boxes. The door creaked open, and he saw the tall man, the same one who had chased him and Luna at the marina, enter the room. He scanned the room, his eyes sharp, his expression deadly. Marcus held his breath, his pulse pounding as he tried to remain completely still. The man lingered for a moment, then walked over to one of the computers and tapped a few keys, muttering to himself. After what felt like an eternity, he finally left the room, closing the door behind him. "Marcus, you're in the clear," Jacob's voice was a whisper in his ear. "Get out of there." Moving swiftly but carefully, Marcus slipped out of the storage room, merging back into the crowd. He made his way to the exit, his heart pounding as he neared the door. When he stepped outside, He saw Luna and Jacob waiting anxiously in the car. He climbed in, his hands shaking slightly as he handed the folder to Jacob. "I got it," he said, relief flooding his voice. "This should be enough." Jacob gave him a tight smile, flipping through the documents. "Good work, Marcus. This is more than enough to expose them." Luna beamed, pride shining in her eyes as she looked at Marcus. "You did it!" Marcus reached over and gave her hand a gentle squeeze. "We did it, Luna." With the evidence in hand, Jacob worked tirelessly to organize it, ensuring they had everything they needed to go to the authorities. After days of painstaking preparation, they submitted the documents, explaining the threats and the actions of the organization. The case quickly drew attention. With the proof they had gathered, law enforcement launched an investigation into the organization. It wasn't long before the news spread, and the dangerous men who had hunted Marcus and Luna were finally placed under arrest. The weight that had been pressing on Marcus's shoulders began to lift. He knew it was over. He and Luna could finally breathe without fear. One evening, as they sat on the porch of Marcus's house, looking out over the quiet street, Marcus turned to Luna. "Thank you, Luna. I would never have made it through this without you." Luna smiled, her face softening. "We make a good team, don't we?" Marcus nodded, feeling a profound gratitude for the young girl who had become his friend and ally. "Yes, we do." As they sat together, watching the sunset and the stars begin to appear, Marcus realized that he and Luna shared something rare, a bond forged through courage, loyalty, and trust. No matter where life took them next, he knew they would always have each other's backs. As weeks passed, life began to settle back into a calm rhythm for Marcus and Luna. The authorities' investigation into the organization unearthed a network of criminal activities spanning several cities, and news of arrests continued to appear in the headlines. Marcus, finally free from the shadow of danger, felt a renewed sense of purpose, one that extended beyond the world of business. Luna remained with him, and together they found comfort in the simple routines of daily life. Marcus watched her gradually relax and blossom in her new environment, her laughter more frequent, her guarded expression softening day by day. It amazed him how, after everything she had endured, she could find so much joy in small moments, whether it was helping him in the garden or exploring the nearby trails together. Then one evening, a letter arrived in the mail from social services. Marcus opened it slowly, reading with a mixture of apprehension and hope. Luna, sitting across from him, noticed his reaction and tilted her head curiously. "What is it?" she asked, her eyes filled with concern. Marcus looked up, his gaze softening as he saw the uncertainty on her face. "It's a letter about you, Luna. They want to know what your plans are, if you'd like to stay here, or if you want to look for a new place to live." Luna's eyes widened, and she looked down, her fingers twisting nervously. I didn't think I'd have a choice." Marcus reached across the table, placing his hand over hers. "Of course you have a choice. And if you want to stay here with me, I'd be honored to make this your home." Luna's face broke into a smile, and she blinked back tears as she looked at him. "Really?" Marcus nodded, smiling warmly. "Yes, Luna. You saved me back at the marina. You're family now." The days that followed were filled with preparations, and with the help of Jacob, Marcus filed the paperwork to become Luna's guardian. As they waited for the final decision, Marcus watched Luna settle even further into her new life, a lightness in her step that he had never seen before. One crisp autumn morning, the official documents arrived, confirming Marcus as her legal guardian. They celebrated with a simple dinner at home, just the two of them, but the significance of the moment filled the room. Luna's gaze held a joy and peace that Marcus couldn't put into words, and he realized that this bond they had created was something neither of them would ever take for granted. Over the years, they shared countless adventures, growing together as they created new memories and dreams. Luna's curiosity and courage never faded, and as she grew older, she began to talk about wanting to help others who had faced struggles like hers. Inspired by her resilience, Marcus used his resources to start a foundation, one that would offer support and opportunities to children who needed a safe place, a guiding hand, or simply someone who believed in them. Luna became an integral part of the foundation, sharing her experiences with others and offering the kind of encouragement she had once needed herself. She helped young people from difficult backgrounds find their own paths, encouraging them to hold on to hope and courage. Marcus and Luna's lives had changed profoundly, but the bond they had forged in the midst of fear and danger became their strongest foundation. They supported each other through every challenge, every victory, and every moment of uncertainty, always finding strength in the knowledge that they had faced the worst together and had come out stronger for it. As the years rolled on, their story became an inspiration to others, a tale of resilience, bravery, and the power of friendship and family. And every time they returned to the seaside town, walking along the familiar docks where their journey had begun, they would smile, knowing how far they had come and how deeply they had changed each other's lives for the better.